I'd like to thank everybody for being here this afternoon, and due to the cold weather, we didn't get the call of 2 hours delay like somebody else did, but I guess we would certainly didn't want to start at 7:30 with the meeting this morning. So anyway, as far as approval of any minutes, that'll be coming up in the discussion when we go over some of the bylaws that are going in. I think we did take the attendance of the people that are here. And here again, it's a start. Certainly like to introduce Gracie de Peña. She has been appointed by Dr. Escobedo to replace Mr. Capistran that was employed by the district yesterday afternoon or yesterday evening. And so they went ahead and appointed Gracie to join us with us to be part of our bond committee. So certainly we'd like to welcome you to the board. And
thank you.
Hopefully we'll be able to get a lot of accomplished. So why don't we go ahead and start with the reports, and why don't we go into the bylaws so we can get that started first, and hopefully we go. So I'll call on the three members, Rick Saez, Michael Rodriguez, and Arturo Farias that worked on them. I hope that everybody did get a copy and does have a copy to be able to go over them. Okay.
Go ahead, Mike. Yeah, Rick and Art Farias and myself met to finalize a draft, which is what you have before you today. As the word indicates, it's intended to be a work in progress. It was sent out today so that you could have it prior to coming to the meeting today, so that we could take input on any additions, changes, corrections, or suggestions that the members of the committee would like to discuss today. Before we move any further, I think it'll be important at some point in time today, Mr. Chairman, to take a vote to adopt the bylaws subject to amendment at the next meeting, so that we can at least conduct further business of this committee following the adoption of the draft or initial set of bylaws. But I'll go through very briefly and quickly the different sections. Obviously, the name and purpose. We decided, and as all of the clauses contained in the bylaws will be up for discussion, as is this one, but we just decided to call ourselves the Bond Oversight Committee. The mission statement was adopted from the document that was given to us by Superintendent at the last meeting. The meeting, Section 3 of Article 1, we indicate that the meeting shall be posted at the main office with 3 days' notice and shall be open to the public. We left on Section 3B, we left the day of the meeting open. I think we need to have discussion on that so that we can determine what day of the month we would like to meet. Notice will be given by email and fax, and I guess we would look to the administration to make sure that gets taken care of. Section 3D calls for a report by the superintendent on a monthly basis to this committee, either the superintendent or his designated representative, regarding expenditures, investment, remaining balances of all bond proceeds and variances. 3E provides the ability for the members of this committee to supplement the superintendent's report with comments made by members of the committee. Additionally, should a member of the committee want to speak before the board, he must notify the chairperson of this committee in writing by 12 p.m. on Friday before the next scheduled board meeting, and Robert's Rules of Orders should be adopted and adhered to where applicable during the conduct of our meetings. Special call meetings will be given 3 days' notice. Article 2, Section 1 talks about membership, and the provision of this clause, which might need some discussion, was the provision that we agreed to insert regarding the term of each member of this committee. We decided between the three of us, and certainly it's up for discussion, that each individual appointed to this committee will serve for a period of time equivalent to the term of the trustee who appointed you to the board. So in other words, I was appointed by Mr. Aguilar. He stands for election, I believe, in November. If he wins election and he wishes to reappoint me, he may do so. If he wishes to remove me and appoint someone else to sit in my position, he will have the ability to do that. And I'm speaking obviously hypothetically here. Should he not win re-election, then the individual who won the seat will then have the opportunity to either reappoint me, should he wish to, or appoint somebody new to the position. We thought that this was a good way to handle the terms of the committee members because it set up a natural staggering within the members of the committee. So there will be some individuals on this committee whose terms will be up in November, others whose terms will be up the following year for the election, and then others whose terms will be up the following year for that next election. And it just created a natural stagger to the membership of the committee. Officers of the board, chairperson, vice chairperson, and public information officer. And the terms of the officers of this committee shall be for 1 year from January through December. I set forth the duties, and I won't go over that. I think that's pretty self-explanatory, although they are open for discussion. Subcommittees will be appointed by the chairman, who will appoint a chairperson of the subcommittee, and the chairperson of this committee will be an ex officio member of each subcommittee that's appointed. The nominating subcommittee will have their report to the full board with respect to the slate of officers in November of the year preceding the duties for the terms for the new officers. And that was kind of muddled. Let me rephrase that. I didn't speak very clearly there. If you look to Article 5, Section 1, the election of officers, with the exception of the election that's going to take place next month, because as we all remember, and Mr. Peña, if you don't know this, Mr. Barbosa was elected interim chairman for a period of 30 days. So we will have elections for the slate of officers for 2007 in February of 2007, which will be next month. Following that one-time out-of-order election, all elections for officers will take place in December of the year preceding the new officer's term. So the nominating subcommittee will bring their slate of officers to the committee in November. The election will be held in December, and new officers will take over in January. Again, open for discussion. Regulations regarding voting and whatnot are also contained in that article. Self-explanatory, I don't need to go over those. Attendance requirements. Everyone here is busy. Everyone here has agreed to, when they can, set aside other commitments in order to help the administration and the trustees of this school district with the important work that they have to do. As such, we're going to require that all members attend at least 50% of these meetings, that all absences be requested and approved prior to the meeting, and that after 3 consecutive absences, the chairperson will bring the name of the individual who has not attended for 3 meetings in a row up for removal, but that's for a vote. In other words, the chairman does not have the power to remove somebody, but he does have the power to bring the name for a vote for removal should that individual not show up for 3 meetings in a row. There are 17 members of this committee, therefore a quorum will consist of 9 members, at least 9 members. The Article 7, which is the order of business, I've already heard some issues with respect to E, which is the public comment period, and we can discuss that. I believe the other clauses within that article are fairly self-explanatory and, again, open for discussion should someone want to call that as an action item to discuss. Special meetings, I do want to point out, shall be called with 3 days' notice, but are intended to cover only the topic for which it was called. In other words, it won't be an open meeting like the regular meetings will be. Article 8, conflicts of interest. This should certainly be open for discussion, but I'll read it so that we can be clear about it. No member of the BOC or Bond Oversight Committee may own an interest in any company, limited liability company, professional corporation, or partnership that is doing business with or intends to do business with the Brownsville Independent School District. Then we've set in brackets and italicized an additional clause that should be open for discussion. Additionally, no member may do business with or own an interest in any company, limited liability company, professional corporation, or partnership that intends to do business with the Brownsville Independent School District within 1 year of resigning from the Brownsville Bond Oversight Committee. That goes along the lines of what Mr. Ray was speaking to at the last meeting, where his company will not seek to bid on any bond money projects during the time that he is on this board.
I didn't say within 1 year.
You did not. You did not, but we've included that, and that's why it's up for discussion. That's correct. The next issue.
Resign now. Pardon? You better resign now.
The next issue, I think, is topical with respect to members of this committee meeting with vendors, lobbyists for vendors, representatives of vendors, for the purpose of discussing purchases, bidding proposals, or other business related to their position on the Bond Oversight Committee. All contacts with vendors, lobbyists for vendors, or representatives of vendors must immediately be reported to the chairperson or vice chairperson within 1 business day of the meeting. It is understood by the membership of the Bond Oversight Committee that members may have long-standing personal relationships with individuals who may try to do business with the Brownsville Independent School District. This clause is not intended to limit personal relationships, only to ensure the integrity of the process for which this committee was formed. And then the amendments clause simply is very self-explanatory. So that, in a nutshell, is the draft, the initial draft of our bylaws. And I'll turn it over to the chairman now for any discussion on any clauses that other members may want to bring up.
I certainly want to thank you for the time and effort that you all did for putting all this together. It would certainly be nice to be able to do this. In order to go into a discussion, I think that we definitely need to have a motion first.
Make a motion to approve the bylaws?
There being a motion to approve the bylaws, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. De Leon. Any discussion?
I mean, I was on the committee on the bylaws, and I want to propose that we delete one particular item, and that one was the 1 year from resigning of the BOC not being able to do business with BISD. I wanted to delete that phrase in the context that I think that we believe in being active in the community and participating. And if we're intending to do business while on the committee, I understand that would be a conflict of interest. But if you step off the committee, I think that you should be able to do business with the BISD.
I asked a question. Mike, did you say we ought to accept these and with amendments? First accept them and then make amendments, for instance? Or can we do it now?
I think that what we can do is just let's approve them first.
Yeah.
So then we can amend whatever it is that we're doing. So we got to approve them first. And let's do it this, because rather than jumping back and forth, let's go at a page at a time. If anybody has anything, we'll go and then we'll discuss that page at a time. That way we'll keep in some kind of order that we're doing.
Excuse me, I just want clarification on one point. Then no amendments will be made today at all?
No, well, we have to approve them first. We're going to correct it.
Okay,
Anything
I
we
see
want
what
to.
you mean. I see, we can correct it,
Right.
and then they'll be
And
approved as
that'll be
corrected.
approved, and then
Okay.
we can amend them after we do that.
But they will be approved as corrected.
Correct.
Was
All
my
right.
motion correct then, or should I add an amendment?
Well, we'd have to, at the end of the discussion, you can amend your motion to indicate that the corrected edit.
There you
But I
go.
don't want to tell you what to do.
No, I'm
but I mean,
asking.
But that's the way we
I
should
was
do it,
asking.
is that once that as corrected, that it would be,
There was something
we have to
there.
get the second to do it first, and then we'll get back to it. Okay? So why don't we go ahead and do it that way? Is there anything in page 1 where it has the scheduled meetings? There was an item that we needed to maybe discuss, whether we,
Place the date?
correct.
I think the date is fairly flexible, isn't it? I don't know that we need to decide that tonight. Where does this fall in conjunction with the school board meeting? Because shouldn't we be about a week before the school board meeting in case we have to take any action, or?
Basically, you're very right, Terry. I think that y'all need to know that the board meetings are on the first and third Tuesday of the month. We meet twice. So, with that in mind, you probably want to meet before one of those dates, so it'll be fresh, probably, especially if you intend to speak or do a presentation. We usually finalize the agenda by Wednesday noon, for the board president's approval of the Wednesday before the Tuesday. So I would suggest that you probably could meet on a Monday, say the
Second Monday?
the second Monday, the second Monday of the month.
I would
And
think,
that would be an open date rather than say a specific, the second Monday of the month.
So where it says blank should say the second Monday of each month?
Right.
Does everybody feel good with that terminology?
I have a conflict on Monday.
Every Monday?
You can do it on Tuesdays. The second Tuesday doesn't bother us at all.
Second Tuesday would be perfect, if it's all right with the rest of the members.
I don't have any problem with it, but I noticed that a lot of these committees that the school board meets on, like, it won't conflict with any of those.
No, most of our committee meetings are usually held on Mondays, Tuesdays, and Thursdays. Wednesday, we sort of leave open because that's not really a good popular day, it's the middle of the week. And just like we reserve that for kids as a church night, we respect everybody's religion. Sometimes they have church on Wednesday even for adults, so we sort of leave that day open all the time. So it's usually Monday, Tuesday, or Thursdays. But we know you're meeting the second Tuesday every month, I just won't post that for y'all.
What do we have at the first Wednesday of every month, that we will be ready by the third week for your meeting? I have a conflict on Tuesdays, I have my commissioners court meeting. I had to skip that today to be with this honorable group.
he's talking to you.
That's Wednesday.
Is everybody okay with Wednesdays?
The only thing, I'm gonna be real honest with you. If you wanted to put something on the agenda, the board president reviews the agenda Wednesday noon.
But-
I'm gonna get that to
But
whenever.
you don't have the meeting until the third Tuesday, so we could meet the first Wednesday of every month. That'd give us a whole week,
But that would be right after the board meeting.
right?
In that way, you can review what happened at the board meeting and get ready for the next board meeting.
How
That
about-
would be fine.
How about Thursdays, guys? Anybody got
Thursday's
a
fine with
maybe?
me.
Thursday's fine.
Thursday's
Anybody
fine.
got a conflict with Thursday? Let's do it on
First Thursday?
the first Thursday of each month. Sound good? Okay.
First Thursday of the month, at 5:30?
Right. That's fine.
You might want to put the time in there.
Anything else on page 1 or the first page?
Yeah.
It's B, section 3B.
I have a question on A, and it's this really a three-part question. Are our meetings required to be open to the public? I assume that they would be.
Would be, or
I would assume that they would be.
I would hope
Okay.
so.
My second question is, it seems like this group doesn't really spend any money. That's the school board's job. And I look at all of this rigmarole that exists just for us to have a meeting, all the microphones and the video staff and everything. Do you think it's necessary to videotape these meetings?
I don't want to
We
take,
advise the board.
yeah, I don't want to take the balloon from it, but I know that you had indicated, or do you want to go ahead and explain to them about the recording situation that we're going through?
Yes, sure. Thank you, Mr. Barbosa. The thing about recording it for the first couple of times is simply so the viewing public can understand what's going on and what is the function of the oversight, the establishment of the bylaws. From now on, it becomes yours. The whole intent of doing the televising is to create transparency. That there's nothing being discussed anywhere else that it's open to the public, and you don't actually have to drive to the BISD building to hear it. You're going to be able to see this and be able to, comment on it later if you want to, whatever. But it creates a transparency. I think the whole intent of providing a bond oversight committee was to have that transparency and to build up trust in the community that things are going in the right direction. So that was the whole intent. But this committee certainly has, you have your own bylaws, you have your own responsibilities, and you don't need to televise if you want to. That's up to you all. We can provide minutes. You can go ahead and do whatever you want to provide minutes, post minutes, or whatever. But it's up to you all as a group, and I think you all need to decide that as a group, rather than me giving you the direction, yes, televise them or no televise them. That would be up to you. It's only once a month, so I would not advise you to televise special call. You're going to have a special call. But if you wanted to do the regular ones, once a month, it's not a hardship on the district, but it would be up to you all.
Part of educating just the public within the community. Let them know where we stand, where we're doing, and where we're moving forward. So, I mean, in my opinion, I don't see any problem. I know what Terry is saying. There's a lot of work involved, and that's part of the expense of the school district, but I think this is very, very important to educate the community, and I think that's a plus.
Let me tell you about the comments that I've heard. I don't know about you all of you. I mean, you're all hanging around your own place of work or establishments or a coffee shop or whatever. All I've heard is positive about this committee, about what a wonderful job you're doing. And really, it's really taken off, and what a good cross-section of community members we have. It really created a positive buzz in the community, and I'm real proud of that. And that was the whole intent, and everybody that's seen it just loves what y'all are doing. So it's not a bad idea, but you have to know. Is it a good idea? In my opinion, yes, but it's up to you.
I want to clarify mine. The only thing that I'm looking at is all of the stuff that is involved with it. I too think it's a good thing that it be televised. I don't have any problem with that. I'm not trying to hide from the public. That brings my third question, and my third question has to do with public comment. In our last meeting, we were involved in some public debate on an issue that had absolutely no relation to what our action was last week, and I question whether we need to, the school board needs to have public comment and public input, and although I'm not trying to limit the public input, but is it necessary for us to go through the stuff that we went through last week?
We already have 17 public members, and if anybody's gonna gripe at anybody, gonna gripe at us out of here, and we'll be more than glad to pass that information over to the rest of the committee and to the board members. I don't think we need to public comment, heck, it's gonna make it longer, and I know that we have a lot of work to do at home and families and happy hour and all this good stuff, I don't think we need to have public comment.
If I may, Mr. Barbosa, I agree with you. I think the purpose of this committee is for you to create input and create advice to the board, not for other people to advise you. That the whole establishment of this committee is for you all to create the dialogue, to create the input, either to administration or the board of trustees, as to the information that's being given to you by whoever the contractor, architects, administration, whoever you're going to meet with concerning the bond program, and for you to discuss it among yourselves and provide advice and input to the board of trustees and administration. Certainly not for people in the audience to come and tell you, this is what I think you should do, because that's your role. That's essentially your role. And public audience is necessary on a governmental agency. You're not a governmental agency. You're an advisory committee, advisory board to another board that is a public entity or governmental entity. That's my feeling of it, but it's strictly up to you guys if you want to let somebody else speak to you. Now, it could be that if somebody has something to say, for example, I'm sure at times we're going to have contractors and architects present. That's your opportunity to ask information off of them directly, and that at the discretion of the chairperson, whoever the permanent chairperson may be, will say, I would like so-and-so to address this committee, we'd like to ask you these questions. That's how you get the other dialogue in that's not part of the committee, and it's not part of administration, a direct relationship. You can always ask, I want the architect for X school to show up because we've heard this and this, we want to ask him a few questions. And that's fine with us. That's the whole intent.
I think the chairman of this group, the chairperson for this group, should be able to just let the people in the audience who have comments or questions or criticisms or whatever, just stop them immediately and tell them that they can meet with the administration at, during their own time. Because otherwise, we're just going to sit here and be, listen to complaints all the time, and I don't think that's the purpose of our group.
On Article 7 of the bylaws, we talk about public comment there. We lay down some specific rules of how the chairperson can control that. I personally think public comment is good. Once in a while, you need to hear from the public what their viewpoints are. I think the way we stated here are comments from you guys. There may be some other ways that we can really control it. But if there's a strong chairperson on the group, I'm sure that can be controlled and limited. But I think anytime you have a committee like what we have, we're supposed to oversee the bond money. I mean, the whole public puts this bond money in, and I think they should be included to a certain degree.
One of the things that that I think that we should also oversee here is that when there's an issue that it's kind of a heated issue, it needs to be brought up, and there's a lot of concern in the public, where we would be able to call a particular special meeting to be able to get the input from the public and do it at that time.
The public hearing.
That way we'll have the input from all of the different citizens that want to, and have it like a public forum for them to be able to express whatever they need. But I think that we could be able to consider that as a so-called special meeting for that particular item or that particular discussion that could be, the talk of the community.
Why not do it on a quarterly basis?
On a
Every
what?
quarter, open to the public, whoever have an input, whatever decisions they want to decide or input, make it on a quarterly basis. At least we know for a fact, at least every 3 months, we're going to be hearing the public.
And that's great. The only problem that is going to arise is that if we have a problem today and we're going to wait for a quarterly, and that issue is going to be taken up beforehand, their input is going to be no good to anybody. And that's why rather than call it a particular time, we're going to say we can call a special meeting for that particular day. And it can be at any time that the chairperson will be able to call that special meeting with everybody so they can have their input. Ella?
I think that's a good way also to have a specific topic for that meeting, and that would alert if someone has an opposing view to that particular person. If the person who's going to show up at our meeting is going to have a particular point of view and not, well, we won't hear the contrary point of view, but if that subject is going to be brought up in the next week or a special meeting, then the opposing side, let's say, would have a chance to come here also, but it'd be specific for that topic.
Well, maybe we may want to make it where, because it's hard to get us all 17 here for a special meeting. We're all coming here, we're all devoting our time for a specific time to come down here. Maybe when the agenda is made, we can make a possibility for a public comment if we know that there's going to be a hot topic in there. Maybe we can leave it up to the chairperson to make that decision for that specific agenda, and it'll be put in the agenda if public comment's going to be allowed on that specific item or not. Might be a different way to handle it.
Let me make a recommendation. I tend to agree that, our deal is not a public forum. However, it is important for their input. So maybe we should do something where at the beginning of every meeting, you allow the first 15 minutes for public comment, and that's it.
That's
And
it.
we just continue to work after that. Because if not, it's going to be very disruption. You don't know who to believe. Because they both sound like a good idea. Unless you're really involved with the project and know some of the architectural things that are being done or any other thing that the committee's going to do. What Mr. Omada said last time, hit a nerve. I mean, he brought up some good points. What Mr. Simmons said brought up some good points. So it's one of those things, who do you believe after you leave here? So maybe in the first 15 minutes, or I don't know how many minutes, but first at the beginning of the meeting, open up for public comment, and that's it. They can be excused and we move on to do our job.
Any other comments?
Rick brings up some good points, and the time to do it is probably at the beginning. That way you get it over with and you get it out. And in order for the chairman to keep control on it, you may, those people are required to sign in typically when they do public comments. And perhaps if they sign in and make a brief synopsis about what they want to talk about, the chairman can make a call on whether or not they should be heard at that point. And if they stray off the point of that issue, then, folks, let's don't ramble. Let's get on with it. And limit it to the first 15 minutes of the meeting. That's a good idea.
Matter of fact, along with your thought process, when we drafted these things, we put the actual public comments before the old business and the new business. And so would probably be the best time for it, as you stated. Matter of fact, the first 4 items are basically housekeeping matters, and then public comment, and then to the real business of this.
And just to comment a little bit on that italicized language there on Article 7, Section 1E, the issue with respect to germaneness, that was inserted specifically to preclude or to allow the chairperson to preclude comment on issues that we are not going to discuss at that day's meeting. So in other words, someone could not come up in 3 months and try to have public comment on the proposed land deals that were discussed last meeting. That would not be germane to the topic of the day unless it was posted as an action item, and I'm speaking hypothetically here, obviously, for that day's business. So I think we attempted to allow the chairperson to wield a big stick in terms of what he's going to allow to be said during the public comment phase, and still allowing for public comment. So we won't have people, we shouldn't have people, depending upon the chairman, we should not have people coming up talking about business that is not before the committee, that is not germane to the business of the committee that day. That should try to limit comment that are tangential or meant solely to harass, which I don't think anybody would do, but it allows us to restrict that type of comment anyway.
Mr. DeLeon and I read that, and we thought germane wouldn't it germinate? We went to A.
I don't believe what I told
I think we covered some good discussion.
If I may, Mr. Barbosa, just one area in that, and it's something that I fully understand. And as long as you also indicate there, wherever the chairperson may be, that if it's a complaint against any of a school employee or a board trustee or whatever, that they should be redirected to administration to handle and not be allowed to speak in any form or fashion, because that could create a possible litigation, especially if they slander an employee of the district or a public officer. We want to keep if it's a complaint, as soon as you hear it's a complaint, sorry, you're out of here.
Okay, so I guess basically what we're covering in this particular page is the posting and open to the public. Those are the 2 discussions that we need to be able to correct that. And I think by, correct me if I'm wrong, I think we are looking that the posting won't be necessarily needed to be done. That's what I'm interpreting. If I'm wrong, let's correct it. And that as far as the open meeting, we're going to be able to put that in an area where it's going to be a so-called, as part of the agenda at the beginning of the meeting, rather than and limit it to 15 minutes
Total.
at each meeting. So we have 15 people, they're going to talk for 1 minute. If we have 30, they're going to talk for 30 seconds. So, we'll work on that.
Well, you're not going to limit the number of minutes per person? If
Well, I mean,
if you're
I'm
talking
just
about
looking-
15 minutes to 3 minutes, that's
Well,
Five
I'm
people?
just repeating basically what I heard here, and we're saying that we would give him 15 minutes. But I think it'll be a situation that, you know, if we have 5 people talking, and we'll give them each 3 minutes or something, you know, we'll go in that round. But if there's a bunch of them, then we definitely need to cut it down.
Why don't we set the
Just-
maximum at 3 minutes?
Okay.
Rather than, because if we have one person and there's 15 minutes, I
Filibuster.
I don't like to listen to the sermon for 15 minutes. But
Okay, so we could put 3 minutes per person.
Up to 15
You
minutes
know.
total.
Does that take care of page 1?
Well,
First
on-
page.
on- Going back on, members will be notified by email and fax. Maybe we could be, either one or, it may be by phone. It depends on, but I wouldn't say both of them. That's on number C, section 3C.
notified by email,
And/or-
fax, or phone.
Yeah, that's fine.
That way you don't
Either
force
one.
yourself into, well, I didn't get one. By fax, I got my email.
Or fax or phone.
Okay, page 1. Go to the following page. Any questions on that?
I do. I don't know if anybody else does.
Go ahead.
On section F, and I've had something terrible happen in the past, so that I want to make sure that we're all on the same boat. Once this group votes, and there, even if it was a split vote, 9-8 or whatever, the consensus or what was voted on is what the whole group is going to stand by. Is that correct?
That's standard. I mean, that's the way it should be.
That's the way it should be. Okay, so I just want to make sure that in going to the board, that, let's say I didn't agree with the rest of you, so I'm going to go before the board. That should be a no-no. So I don't know how it would be worded so that only the consensus of the group would be presented to the board.
Can I say something to that?
Sure.
I mean, I never thought of that one.
Well,
but
we
right-
had
right off
horrible
the bat,
experience.
What I would think, that we would all have the opportunity to hear and discuss amongst ourselves.
Here.
And then we would know the outcome, and whether, let's say I lost, okay, I didn't get my way. And I go to the board meeting the following week. If I should go up and say, well, you know what, I didn't agree with what Bach did, and I think I should be dismissed from this group. Because there, I became an individual, a private citizen, and went beyond this committee, which I am supposed to be serving as a member of. That's what I think. I think that person should be asked
Terminated.
to leave the committee if they went to that extent. Because they should have already voiced their displeasure, their disagreement here, and then we live with the decision of the group.
But there is a distinction between being an individual taxpayer and having the right to go out and speak in front of the Board of Trustees, as opposed to, as the Bond Oversight Committee, this was an advisory function, the consensus was, this is what we're advising the board as to what we agreed in a consensus form. So one is an individual taxpayer's right, and the other one is us as a committee, that whatever is presented to the Board of Trustees is going to be as far as a consensus of this committee as to the voice of the Bond Oversight Committee. Not that you represent the Bond Oversight Committee at the Board of Trustees, that you go up and say, I, as an individual taxpayer, I am a part of the Bond Oversight Committee, but this is my personal opinion. I mean, I think you have that right, but not as far as advising in a consensus as an advisory capacity.
Arturo, I don't agree.
I think you
We
would.
agree to serve on this committee, and the rules of this committee say that you're not going to address Bond Oversight Committee business before the school board. I don't think that takes away your right as a taxpayer, but you've agreed to serve on this committee.
Right.
And by agreeing to it, then, Gracie has a good point. You should
Stand
be
by
knowing the.
Mr. Chairman,
this-
I think everybody has his own right to be heard, but if he or she decides to go along then he or she should resign from the committee, period.
Okay, are we going to be regularly reporting to the board, or just as needed?
I think the reason this was put in there is there had to be some kind of method or procedure of, okay, we make a decision. Well, what's going to be the procedural avenue to get to the board? So that's what that was put in there for. And we
Which I
really,
think
we
is
really got,
important.
we really got to change the date, because Friday at 12 o'clock before is not enough time, right?
What I was thinking, if I may, I could give you a standing, what I consider a standing board agenda item under conference presentation, superintendent's report, a slot, presentation by bond oversight committee. You don't have to worry about this one. It'll be on the agenda every second Tuesday of the month. And then whoever this committee chooses to be a group or an individual, the chairperson or a subcommittee, to present to the board can do that at that time. I'll just have it a standing board agenda item starting the second Tuesday of February.
When would you like to know by?
It wouldn't matter. It's just a standing board agenda item. Every second Tuesday, you have a slot.
You don't think
It can be
the-
as much says, everything's going great, and move forward.
But you don't think the board members, in all fairness to them, would like to know about it beforehand? Because I know they get packets and stuff from you guys.
Mhm.
So they can at least know what we're going to present to them.
And if
I
you,
mean, I don't think it'd be fair if we just showed up to, one of our standing things and, boom,
all I
they
need.
didn't have a chance to
on
think
the-
about it at all.
and If you're gonna give us the package, as long as you give it to me by Thursday morning.
Okay, so Thursday,
You're gonna give me any
by 12 p.m.
information
Thursday before the meeting?
the Thursday before the meeting.
Okay. Then we need to change on F, we need to
Give
put
it
it
to me
on
by,
Thursday.
by Thursday noon, I'll be able to get it to my staff that runs off the agendas, and all the background of the agendas goes out on Friday afternoon to the board members. So just give me enough time to put it in there.
I'd just like to state for the record that everyone here is a professional, and I'm loath to agree to cut off an individual's right to speak publicly before the board. I completely agree with the idea that once a vote is taken and you've been heard in committee, then that's the voice of the committee, and that's what should be furthered. But I'm a bit loath to agree to cut off anybody's individual rights to speak to the board. I don't think that's right, but I think everyone here as a professional should be able to live up to the fact that we're not going to win every argument every day, and act accordingly. So, I mean, I will go along with the wishes of the committee, but I just wanted to state for the record that I don't think it's right to try to limit anybody's ability to speak publicly before a governmental agency.
They're not being limited, they're just being asked not to be a member of this committee because I personally don't want to be told not to speak. Look, I love to talk, but I just feel that if I went against this committee right after I lost something, I'm just showing this committee that I'm not willing to be a committee member. I already discussed it and debated whatever, and then to take an extra step, I just think is going beyond this committee. That's why I brought that up. But I'm the last one to tell somebody you don't have the right to face any governmental body. That's not my point.
I think one of the things that we may be able to talk about or say is that if any member here wishes to speak to the board, or whatever it may be, is to be able to say, I'm not here as a BOC member, but as an individual. To letting the board know and the public know that you're speaking as an individual and you're not speaking in behalf of the BOC committee. And maybe that'd be something that we would be able to put in here and say, anybody given that is a member of this committee cannot go before the board, unless they indicate that particular statement, whether they're for it or against it or whatever the deal, just
I
a
don't, looking at it
suggestion,
from a board member's point of view, I would, let's say the vote was 9 to 8. I would hate for 8 people to stand there.
I agree.
You know, it's
Be
not,
divided.
and maybe this will just simply changing the wording at the beginning may set things, you know, at rest. How about if we say instead of BOC members, the chairperson or designated representative may present information to the board?
Is the only one that can present information? Or is the only one that can? That way it's limited in saying that's it.
Based on our decisions.
Right, on the, yeah, what it mean.
So would
You're
y'all,
representing the board at that time.
so would y'all consider that, the chairperson or the designated
The
representative?
designee,
Or his designator? Mhm.
take care of that.
I think that will,
But the representative designated by BOC may present.
okay. I don't have a problem with that.
By 12 p.m. on Thursday. For the second scheduled board meeting of the month.
We've got, in the first page, we issue the mission statement, and then in the end of the first page, we talk about what the superintendent reports to us, and if you look at the bylaws, it looks like we come to a meeting once a month and we get a report on the activities of the bond, monies out of the bond election. It doesn't really spell out in the bylaws, and perhaps this is not the proper place to do it. It doesn't really spell out just exactly what we're supposed to be doing. And in the last meeting, and I'm still having, I'm still trying to figure out just exactly what is it that we're to do over the next, are we going to be expected to be involved in presentations from the architectural community and the construction community on the selection process? And as we do that, when we make our recommendation, my assumption is that the school board will take proper action on that and not just overrule what we've worked hard at. Is that what the function of this board is? Or is it to just receive a report on how they spent the money? Because if that's the case, then, you know, there's a lot of people here to get that report from.
That's not the intent, if you're asking. The intent is for you all to provide input. It really is. Talking to the board members, that's the whole intent of this committee, is to provide input and providing it, to be in an advisory capacity. For example, I'm going to whoever, if it's still Bush, Mr. Barbosa, that's going to be the chairperson, I would advise him to appoint a committee, because next week, we're going to be, I would hope that the whole committee would be here, but it's impossible for you all to be here for everything. But we're going to be, we're shortlisting this week. We're trying to get next week, and we'll give you plenty of notice. I say plenty of notice, 3 or 4 days at least. That's all we can do. To be able to bring the architects in, that were shortlisted to do a presentation to the facilities committee meeting, not to the regular board meeting, but to the facilities committee meeting. At that particular time, you will be invited, the entire group, to sit in and listen to the presentations. You can meet the following day or within the next 2 or 3 days before the board meeting and say, you know, we recommend that to the board or whatever, that this were what we could consider the top 2 architects. You can't tell them this is the one we want, but in our opinion, these 2 or these 3 firms can do the job adequately. In other words, we can live with this guy. They did a good presentation. Now, if the facilities committee meeting chairperson might say, you know, we want to go visit some schools that you've designed and see what it is, and we would invite a representative group from here that would want to go and see and report back to this group. You know, we went to San Antonio, or we went to McAllen, or we went to whatever, and saw their high schools and how functional they are, and we visited with the principal, and we visited with the superintendent of that district, and these are the comments they made. To be able to function completely and say, okay, after all the input that we have, this committee says that X company and X company and X company are certainly one of the top three that we could live with, still up to the board, but these three companies we feel can do the job very adequately for the district, without necessarily saying X company is the only one. Now, you could come back and say, I think as far as the committee is concerned, none of these companies can do the job for what we're looking for, and make that recommendation to the board. But that would be the role, not to select the company, but to say these are satisfactory companies that could do a viable job for the district, based on all the information you've been given. So we're going to shortlist 5. You might, as a group, might recommend 2 to the board, saying these are 2 very good companies that we feel very comfortable with, without telling them this is the one. And then they appreciate that, because now they're okay, we're within 2 or 3 that everybody can live with. Because one of them might be out here that they think is great, that you all think is just, you know, I've seen that, you know. It all depends on the presentation and how it's being presented. So with that in mind, that's what your role is. In an advisory capacity, to sit in and do everything that you're supposed to do, and then provide input, like you said, a presentation to the board. We saw them. This is the 2 companies we feel very comfortable with. And we'll feel that any one of these 2 or 3 companies these firms that you have reviewed would do an adequate job for the district. And that's it.
Do you have a ranking system that you rank the,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how you do architects, I know how you do contractors, but.
Oscar will be an integral part to this committee, Mr. Tapia. And because he does all the rankings, Mr. Sanchez does all the financials. In other words, by the time you get the top 5, that means they're financially strong, and they've met all the criteria that's needed for them to even be considered for the job. In other words, when we look at them, if you haven't built a high school and you're an architect, you're not even on the list. You're going to have already designed a high school, or preferably more than one. We take a lot of factors into consideration concerning what it is that's going to be happening. So by the time you get the list, the short list, financials have been reviewed. We asked the firm to send in their audited financials. Mr. Sanchez, which is a CPA, reviews all of those. And so we might have 10 people that turned in, but staff will cut it down to 5 for the board to even listen to. And then from there, you'll be listening to things as, how many staff members are you going to dedicate to this project? How many architects are going to be dedicated to this? How many inspectors do you have of your own group? A lot of the things are going to be, and as far as you all are concerned, when they're out there, we do have a public input in order to ask questions, and you guys can ask those questions as part of the committee to those firms to get more input, solicit more input.
I'd like a point of clarification here, because I may have misunderstood you, and if I did, I apologize, but I understood you to say initially that nobody will be brought to this committee, say architects, for instance, until their financials have been reviewed and other issues have been reviewed, so that they qualify for the bare minimum. So does that mean that if there's 15 who apply, there are 10 that qualify, we get all 10? Or from the 10 that qualify, you guys decide who you want to pick for the 5? Okay. And what if we don't agree with that?
And that's okay, but you won't see those other ones, because by what we have on the process on the rules that we have on the ranking, it's very clear how those rules are at. That avoids from somebody saying, I don't agree for whatever reason, and they really don't have a basis for it, other than, I would hate to say that, but somebody's friend says, I think our firm is better than the other firm. You really have administration doing that, and it's based on financials, and it's based on criteria that's very strict, that is really objective and not subjective in nature, including checking references, calling other school districts to see what kind of work they've done, have they been satisfactory with the work they've done, have they completed the work in timelines, have they done what they're supposed to do, have they gone into litigation. We do a complete background. Oscar, do you have that form with you?
don't have it with me. Just for clarification, though, we don't review the architect's finances, it's only the contract.
Contractor's finance,
We review everything else, we require insurance.
the insurances, everything that's needed to be done. And we'll give you the packets on those firms, because they're required to have packets. So, in other words, what is it, if that were the case, then I would have everybody that applied %, and we never finish. That's the thing, that's the whole thing about the ranking is, we take that very seriously, very, very seriously. Our staff takes it very, very seriously. And this is something that we look at from every angle. And that's our job as administration, to ensure that those firms meet the qualifications as approved. Those things have to be approved by the Board of Trustees, the ranking, right, Oscar? As part of state law, that we have a ranking system.
Who's involved when you get into the short list? And I would agree with you, because having done a whole lot of these, you don't look at the broad field. The selection committee looks at the short list, the district or college or owners group weeds out the ones that they just don't make it to start with, and then they bring the short list to the committee. But I would hope that the Bond Oversight Committee be an integral part of the selection process that is recommended to the board. And I wouldn't expect the Oversight Committee and the actual selection committee, and we won't call them the Bond Oversight Committee, but the committee that oversees the selection of the architects or contractors or whomever, I would expect that group to be made up and be fairly diverse. I would think that that Oscar would run it, and that it would have school district people on it. It would have some of the representatives of the facilities committee, not necessarily all of them. They don't all have to be, because they have all kinds of different things that they're in charge of. One could be in charge of new construction, and another one could be in charge of renovation. But and then I would expect possibly the school district to appoint some members from within the school district community. They could be anything from school teachers to administrators to somebody out of the transportation department, and then fill out the group with the Bond Oversight Committee, and then that group review those and watch those presentations, and then vote on the final selection and recommend that selection to the school board, who would typically accept it.
And this is what's normally done, Terry, and you well know. Oscar heads up the group all the time as far as the selection of the architect to rank them the top 5 or whatever. Sometimes we might even go with 6 if we feel very strongly that some are very tight on the top. So 5 is the normal range that we look at. Sometimes we only get 5, so we might do all 5 of them, depending on how many we get. Sometimes we get a real tight group. Sometimes there might be an architect in there that has never even designed a school, period, ever in their entire life, and they want to have an opportunity. We might consider them for a wing or something, small project to see just how they work. So we analyze all of that. We have a group that's spearheaded by Oscar that does all of this for us. And then we present that before the Bond Oversight, that was presented to the board, to the Facilities Committee, and then the board would hear the presentation. Now, we take it a step further with y'all. Y'all listen to the presentation. And as a group, because you can't do it as individually, as a group, you have to come up with and say, this is the 1 or 2 or 3 that we feel very strongly about that the board should really consider as the person selected. Now, there's going to be other things that are going to be taken into consideration as we go through this, because this is going to be a tough one, guys. I tell you, it's not going to be easy. We're going to start with the big one, which is the high school. A lot of times you might say, okay, this architectural firm was very strong before they got the high school. Now, their staff is going to be tied up in the high school. Who do we want to select for a middle school? And it might be a completely different, you might not want to give the same company a high school and middle school and 3 elementaries or whatever. So you start looking at, so this is why we got to start with one project at a time. Because say Hector Gonzalez Architect gets the high school, and I have a very adequate staff for the high school, but once I tie it up, I don't have any other staff for the middle school, but on paper it still look good. But now you know, okay, Hector's got the high school, We really need to look at another architectural firm that can, because it's all going to be at the same time. That's the hard part. We're not staggering them. They're all going up at the same time. This is where you hear the presentations and you hear what's going on and ask the hard questions. And I would suggest, like I tell the board members and everybody else, that for this type of situation, I would advise you to at least go visit what they've done in the past. Don't just take the pictures. Pictures are easy, but actually go visit and see and talk to the people that are utilizing the building now. Was this a good design? Did it help you? What do you think? I know I went to see a high school once that they said was very good, and as an ex-principal, I said, I don't like it. It looked beautiful. It really did. But it had pillars right in the middle of all the halls where kids could hide behind. I mean, every so often you had a pillar. I said, man, kids can hide in here. You ever been a principal trying to find kids around the pillars? and it was very difficult. I said, no, I don't like it. As beautiful as it was not functional. And I asked the principals, yeah, that's the hardest thing we got. Those kids standing behind, and teachers go by there, nobody sees that they're hiding right in front of you because they're right behind the pillars. They had a whole bunch of them all up and down. So that's what we need to look at, and you all need to look at before final consideration.
Let's have a question. What happened if the applicants are not very strong on the background? And, you know, there's only just one or two.
Let me, Julian, I don't mean to be disrespectful or anything, but we really need to work on these bylaws because we keep on talking. It's great information. We're doing great. But I think if we work on the bylaws and get that out of the way and continue with the meeting, and then when he gives his report, when I ask him for, we're going to be able, even though I think that, not being disrespectful to our superintendent either, he loves to talk. And, and we're going to have to limit our meeting because otherwise we're going to be here all night long. But I'd certainly like to be able to continue with the bylaws at this stage.
My brother, I just might want to say one thing. This was just an example because they asked, what is the function of this committee? This is going to be part of the function. Strictly advisory to the board in a sense that you will not make the decision for the board. I want to make that very clear. They're the only ones that can make the decision. You can only advise them and recommend to them.
You got your answer, Terry, somewhere in there. Somewhere in there you got your answer.
Don't ask any more questions.
But our only message back to and I heard what you said about the only ones that can make the decision are the school board, but I think our message back to the school board should be, don't rule against what we recommend to you, or we won't be here any longer, because we'd be wasting our time now, wouldn't we?
Well, I think, just real quickly, because I know you're anxious to continue that, but the public trust is involved. And being out in the community, all these years and hearing all kinds of things, I think now is the time to have a group like ours to oversee a lot of these things. But I think the administration knows it to us to maybe bring a list of the things that we could possibly be involved with.
No problem.
Thank you.
And personally, I've always thought that if we get an orientation so that we know exactly what, Terry's been asking it for the second meeting that we've had together. But I think we need to be able to, once our bylaws and the things are set up, we need to have an orientation to find out exactly what it is that we're going to do and continue from there, if we can.
We have a list for you, Red.
Okay.
What page are we
Anything
on?
else? We're still on page 2. Trying to move along here. Any other questions on that?
Page 2 on the Senate officers, we don't have a secretary? I mean, the secretary take minutes.
Well, I was gonna bring that up because we don't, and
have a secretary of the public.
going back to the point that Terry was bringing up about staff members and what have you, I know the school district is willing to provide secretaries and people. I think we should have our own recording secretary, and then if we need help with the minutes or whatever, then we can talk to the superintendent and have him just help us type up the minutes. But I think we need to take our own minutes.
Bean, everybody around this table is a professional and is an asset to our community, and I don't think anybody here is responsible for being corresponding secretary for this organization. They're taped. We have a staff. The school district has a staff. Let them take care of the notes. That's, we're here for our advice.
Amen.
I agree.
So did I.
Amen.
Okay,
agree.
then we have to request it. We need to request the microphones be here and everything then.
That's fine with me. All you have to do is just tell me. You can even vote on it.
Any other questions on this? We'll go to the next page. Duties.
I think the next page is great.
Any other questions?
I like that.
You got red marks all over the place there.
That's the fourth page I got.
Oh, okay.
Oh, excuse me.
Then we'll go to the fifth page. Now, go ahead and go to the following page 4.
We already took care of the public comment business, so.
Okay, Article 6.
Mr. Chairman, I think my only comment would be to members wanting to bring a topic before the BOC for information. 5 days before the meeting we print our agendas the last minute, I assume, don't we? I assume that the agendas for the meetings are printed at the last minute
For this meeting?
for this meeting.
Well,
I don't know.
depending if you're gonna, I think you said y'all wanted to post it 3 days in advance.
I thought we
You're eliminating posting?
We eliminated the posting. The public's welcome to come to the meeting, but there's no posting requirement.
The only issue about eliminating the posting requirement is that we don't instruct the public won't be informed as to the topics that we're discussing, so that then the chairman will be hard pressed to say, well, this is not an issue for public comment because it's not on our agenda for today. But we don't have to have it. I'm just bringing that up as
Which leads back into what Gracie said about transparency. It's a good point.
Let's post an agenda. Let's post an agenda and be
Post
open
an
to the
agenda.
public.
That's fine.
That's fine with me. But that's why if you're gonna post it 3 days, then whoever's gonna be doing the posting should have it at least 24 to 40 hours before posting.
Okay, because we're not a governmental body. I think we can include at the very bottom, other business, in
Definitely.
case something else needs to come up.
You
Because that will
can
not
do it, you can have an agenda and there's new
Under new
business and old business.
Under either new business,
Or old business.
according to the,
Yeah, but if you list new business, you would be very specific in listing the things that we will be discussing.
no, I think here in the agenda, the way it is, the way you have it, when we just say old business, anything that was discussed earlier, and then the new business would be something that we're going to discuss, and it would fall under other,
Okay.
A, B, and C, and the last one would be other, say. Anything else in that one?
Be consecutive absences, you're terminated.
No,
The chairman,
you can be called before the committee to face termination.
Okay.
I really need clarification, and, maybe it's a senior moment or senior moments that I get every now and then, but if we're going to post an agenda, I mean, this is the regular order of business. This is not necessarily what will appear on the agenda just like that. Under old business, you would be specific as to what we would be discussing.
Exactly. And then under the new business would be the new items, but the last one would be others.
Like a standing others on every agenda.
I had a question on the requirement. Who is it that we're going to be calling? Are we going to be calling the school? Or are we going to call within ourselves to be able to say, I'm not going to be there? Or how are we going to be able to handle that? Because it just says,
Someone from the school district notifies us of the meeting pretty
Lucila.
regularly, and I don't remember their name.
Terry.
Terry? That person should be the one that we notify that we're going to be absent.
so we
Why
can,
don't you just say superintendent's office?
Be fine.
That would take care of it. Call superintendent's office if you're not going to be attending. That way we know, we bring the list down, who called already.
Regular meeting?
Finished all your notes on 5? Have you finished all your notes on 5?
The order of business was, we need to correct the E, to be 15, and we're going to place it,
I'm going to put it right above subcommittee reports.
Yes.
right.
Switch, flop, flip, flop.
So E and D will
Switch.
Switch. Any other questions, comments? We go to special meeting. One of the
I did have a question.
Go ahead.
Right above special meetings, it says, members wanting to investigate avenues of construction renovation have the approval of membership and request a committee to be formed. Well, are we still gonna be allowed as individuals to go and visit a site? I mean, I wouldn't want to investigate, but I would like to go and see it, check it out, review it.
Not unless it's the work of this committee.
See, that's
I
what.
wouldn't think so. I mean,
If I may, Terry?
Yes, sir.
To make sure that we can't allow individuals in any work site.
Oh, okay.
That belongs to the contractor. In order for us to allow even ourselves, we must let the contractor know we're going to the work site because hard hat needs to be issued. Safety, we don't want any liability situations. So if this committee says we're going to send the entire committee or a subcommittee to view the site and just to see schedule the progress, schedule it with me, Oscar will schedule it with the contractor, we'll pick you up here in a school vehicle, and we'll take you out to the site, give you the tour, have the job superintendent on site so you can have somebody to talk to and walk through the campus where we wanted to do.
That's why I was wondering the word investigate. Do we want to use that word? Because investigations, it could just be us as a subcommittee visiting.
well, I think to reinforce what the superintendent is saying, it's not really this board's job, or the school board for that matter, to be going to job sites, climbing on the roofs, inspecting the construction. I mean, the school board's job is a policy-making board, and our job is an oversight, and the gentleman over there in the white shirt with the brown coat is in charge of running construction for the school district, and I expect him to be getting on the roof. And if he says the roof's all right, then the roof better be all right. That's all there is to it. So it's one thing for us to have a scheduled visit to go see the construction that Oscar takes us on, and if anybody that wants to go can go see the construction. I personally think I've seen enough. I don't need to go watch my competitors.
See, that's what I'm saying. The word investigate.
Boy, they get touchy if I start showing up.
I don't think it's really needed.
I think that's what the purpose of that clause is there for.
Yeah. That's,
To stop people just from going onto the sites and thinking they have control of this matter somehow.
I'm just saying to change the word investigate. That's what I'm saying. It just seems like, that's a strong word in my opinion. Okay?
Any other comments? Any changes or anything?
Under conflicts of interest, Mr. Chairman, if I may, I agree with everything it states, but as is written here, I would have to resign from the committee because I have an interest in the hospital that does business with the BISD through healthcare. So I don't know how to.
Dr. Jimenez, I was going to bring that up. All of you would basically have to resign from this committee, the way it's written. I would say anybody that has an interest in the construction of bond or has a direct interest on the way bond money is going to be spent in the construction of schools would then be, because I know that he works with the bank, which is our depository, so he would have to go. You all work with the hospitals, you would have to go. Anybody that does any type of banking or any type of, worked with anybody that may, or all of you basically have some type of interest with the district. You all look oversee permits and everything else. So it's just a matter of, it's not, I think, anybody doing business with the district. It's those that are doing business with companies that are doing bond projects. That would sort of, everybody now is free on that.
I think I'm probably the closest to that because I, quite frankly, will deal with some of the architects that may be doing work on this, and I don't have any idea who's even looking at it, but I know all the local architects will be looking at some piece of this portion, and I have a relationship with all of them. So I have to watch that pretty carefully, but I would expect that if we have, that if we have these limitations on us, I would assume that the other members of the staff have the same ethical conduct standards, as well as the school board. I look at this second paragraph that it says BOC members shall not meet with any vendor, lobbyist, or vendors or representatives. I would expect the school board to maintain the same level of standard. And it's one thing if it's a called meeting with a vendor that the staff is present for, then I would think that that's a proper way to do things. But outside of the school district arena, then we're not supposed to do it, and no one else is supposed to do it either, for that matter. So that's what I would expect, and that's okay with me.
Let's try to tackle the first paragraph first.
Yeah.
Want to put in front of that is doing business, doing construction business?
I added a phrase that's, obviously there's no pride in authorship here, but at the end of the sentence where it says to do business with the Brownsville Independent School District, specifically with the use or expenditure of bond funds.
There you go. Very good.
Do any of the local, any of the local banks,
But I knew we had a lawyer somewhere.
are any of the banks involved in the financing or funding of the bond package?
No.
And the bankers aren't going to have any trouble with it.
Yeah,
Healthcare is not related to it.
Our big money is somewhere else.
We don't have anything. Other than that, I would have to resign in the event they would be directly so.
We don't have any of our bond money. Regular old flowing money.
Okay.
Parenthetical language? I know Mr. Farias had a problem with that.
Well, the only thing is, in other words, if you resign from the Bond Oversight Committee, why would you have a year's probation period to do business with that?
It wasn't, well, and that's a very good point. I think the impetus behind that was to relieve any skeptical member of the public or disabuse them of the notion that somebody may have taken a position on this committee simply to sit here for 4 months, garner the respect and friendship of those other people on the committee, then drop off and 2 months later become affiliated with a company that's trying to do business with this, with the school district.
That's a reflection on the individual, not on the committee.
I agree.
If a person decided to do that, that would be a poor reflection on that individual.
I agree with that.
And quite frankly, I'm probably the most likely to have that conflict. And I don't know what that's going to do. Business could change. The market could change. And although I haven't done schoolwork in at least 10 years, if the market around town goes to hell in a handbasket, I'm going to be over looking for school district work. But if it was my druthers, and Oscar and Hector and I have talked about this for a long time, we're next door neighbors. I'm right out the back door. But I like doing other things, and that would be the only I think that'd be the only time that I think I would be affected by it.
How do you even enforce it? Somebody does resign and next week, they are doing business.
True.
So we can't enforce it, why even have it?
Exactly.
It's my take. Because, I mean, you would have a hard time enforcing it, wouldn't you? I mean,
Certainly. Yeah, I think we would.
I'm asking you because you're an attorney, but.
No, I mean, we don't have any enforcement powers. I mean, it would be, but there is power to written word and, you know,
It goes
and
back
that's
to what
over.
the gentleman is saying regarding ethics. Charlie,
I would say to eliminate that phrase completely.
agree with that.
Any other thing on that page?
Work on the second paragraph, or do we even need to do anything on it? I mean, it looks fine.
Any other discussions or on the bylaws at all?
Is everybody okay with the language of the second paragraph? I think it basically discusses the ethical standards that we want to uphold this committee to, sir. Right?
We should be able to meet with people as long as we don't discuss anything. They're not going to duly influence us to,
And you may have a friend that's an architect or whatever, and you have lunch with them every other day or whatever. I mean, we're not,
and we don't discuss this business.
right, I mean, if that's.
There'd be no problem.
It's not there to stop long-term relationships or anything like that.
Any further discussions on this?
Final comments, if I may, Mr. Chairman, is I'd like to thank the folks that worked on the bylaw committees. Kudo and the rest of the folks, I think they did.
Yes,
I appreciate you guys putting this together, because it is a start and it is getting us to the next level.
you're welcome.
Did a pretty
know-
thorough job.
Yeah, good
I know
job.
that there was a motion put on the floor and a second early on.
Yes,
You're gonna, as corrected,
as corrected, I second it.
I would urge us to let that committee go back and make the changes, and at the beginning of our next meeting, we'll pass on the bylaws after we've all received the bylaws back. That way, there's no question that everything's been corrected.
I'm
It
moving
doesn't,
table to the next meeting.
it's a motion that it be tabled.
Should I just resend it?
Second, but
Well, yeah, that's what he's saying. So they table it to the next meeting? Second by Julian.
If it's possible, I'd like to get the emails on this ahead of time so we can review it before we come and sit down.
I guess the easiest way to do that was send it to
I'll send it.
What's your office?
Superintendent's
Do you have the
office?
email? Do they have your email address? Lucy's my own personal secretary, just email it to her.
and she can distribute it to everybody, right? Okay.
Then she'll email it to
Did you
everybody.
distribute it today?
That's what she did, she did a good job.
you guys let it.
It's not Lucy's fault that she got it out at 4 because I didn't get it to her till 3:30 or so today, so it's not her fault, that's my.
You know, we had this done last night, and I told him to do it earlier, all right?
Well, I expect you'll have it done by about 9 o'clock in the morning.
This is a great committee.
Okay, well then we'll table it till next, all in favor of tabling, say aye.
Aye.
The ayes have it, so we'll table it for the next meeting. Well, I had the election of officers, because.
We were waiting,
but-
we were kind of waiting for the bylaws.
Well, I know, that's what I mean, now that we're tabling it. I don't know.
Now that we've tabled it, I think the election committee will get together, and we'll bring a slate back to you in the next meeting for consideration right after the bylaws, and you'll decide when the next meeting is, we'll be ready for it.
I don't have a sch-
Do you have a calendar?
It'll be the
And I would
first
still urge
Thursday.
anyone that wants to be the chairman, the vice chairman, or the public information officer to raise their hand so that the committee, we sure don't want to have to point the finger.
That's the only finger I like pointing.
You know, I think we ought to have a secretary, because Joe's good at it.
And when do you want to have it? What time next week? We don't have a board meeting next week at all. Our next board meeting for the board of trustees is the
First
2nd of
Thursday.
February. I mean,
First Thursday.
the
You can do it
6th
on
of
Tuesday.
How about next Thursday?
17th?
Tuesday I have.
You know.
So you can't do it at
17th.
So next
How about next
Thursday?
Yeah, we'll do it.
Next Thursday,
The
I'm out of town
24th,
Thursday, but I can get with
25th.
Terry anyway.
25th.
Mr. Gonzalez, next Thursday, is that available?
Do I have anything on 25th? I'll make room. If I'm not here, I'll have Mr. Sanchez here.
Okay.
But I should be here. The only day, the 24th, I probably will not be here.
What date is next Thursday?
24th,
The 25th.
25th?
25th is okay.
Okay.
I'm out, but if I get it before, I'll send comments back.
Now, Oscar, if I may, Mr. Barba, just for information purposes, how soon do you think we're gonna have that ready for architects to present? Probably, what, the last week of January? 29th, 30th, 31st, somewhere in there? Yeah. Mhm.
The only thing that has me concerned is if we shortlist some architects in San Antonio, Houston, Dallas.
Yeah, well, they have to have time.
A lot more notice to be able to make it here. So we're hoping by next Thursday, no, not anytime sooner, it'll be too quick.
If these bylaws get adopted, which I think they probably will, then our first scheduled meeting won't be until the first Thursday of February.
Right. You would have to have a special call before that to sit in for the scheduling, for y'all to sit and review the architects.
Would be in 2 weeks.
So let's try to schedule those meetings, Oscar, say on the first, try to shoot for the 1st of February, which is on a Thursday. Thursdays are good for people, right?
Yes.
Thursdays are good for most everybody?
That's the first.
That would be the regularly scheduled
Yeah.
meeting.
That'll be the first regularly scheduled meeting, February.
What day does
That's
it
the first
fall?
Thursday.
The first of
First
February.
Thursday. First Thursday of the month. which would
Okay,
be-
so we're looking at,
Those people that are going to Mr. Amigo deal are going to be out of town.
Adios.
That's right.
We're gonna have conflicts, you know.
Yeah, it's just
anytime
gonna be the way.
That's why 9 makes a quorum. It's gonna be impossible to get 17 people in it all the time. I know that. It's hard to get all my 7 board members in
so
it.
we still have the meeting on the 25th
Yes.
for the bylaws?
Nomination.
And then after that, we'll,
The first scheduled meeting will be February 1st. That's when we're gonna try to schedule the architects. So you
When
will.
we approve the bylaws, do we also elect the officers?
We're gonna do it the next,
on the
next
25th.
meeting.
25th.
Yes.
Okay, do you have anything else you know, Drew?
Any questions you all might have of administration?
Does anybody have any questions or any comments or anything that needs to be?
The next meeting is gonna be the approval of the bylaws and then the elections of the new officers
25th.
On the 25th.
on the 25th, yes, ma'am.
So we're going to have a meeting, we're going to have a meeting the next 2 Thursdays in a row, right?
Right.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Move to adjourn.
I will not be here February the 1st.
Second.
Just letting you all know.
There's a motion on the floor that we adjourn, seconded by Joe. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Let's have it. Thank you very much.
Excuse me, Larry, sorry.
Charlie, we want to meet right after this?